Hello there, I'm back. I'm Fernanda Paiva, Hitchhiking Stars, and bringing you some insights about the lunations. So let's talk about the coming full moon, which in some places in the world, mainly in the US, as well as in South America where I'm based, this full moon will be happening on April Fool. The card of the Fool, I guess, has a bit of a resonance with this full moon somewhere. But obviously in some places in Europe, this is going to be happening already on the 2nd of April, Thursday. So this full moon is happening in Libra and at 12 degrees Libra. So let's talk about this degree. Let's talk about the chart of this full moon as usual, looking at the main aspects and what this could be telling us about this stage of the cycle. I mean, it's been going on for a little while, but we are starting the month with a bang, right? Right at the beginning of the month, having a culmination of the lunar cycle, like this. So starting the month very strong. Now, as usual, just as a reminder here, full moons are connected to culminations, a peak moment in the lunar cycle, a time where we can really have some powerful insights, a time where we can really see something that we haven't seen before, something that we weren't aware, right? Think about that bright, big moon in the sky, really shedding the light on something that is there for us to see. So something about the truth, something about being able to see some sort of truth that we haven't seen before. Now, with that sense of clarity, obviously we have the sign of Libra here in the picture. So let's talk a little bit about that. Let's talk about the Sabian Symbol, as I usually do. Some of the aspects that this full moon does, as well as the tarot cards that we can reflect on, meditate upon, and use it during this full moon or on the run-up to this full moon as well. So Libra, obviously Libra is going to be bringing flavors connected to equality in relationships. So think about Libra and obviously Aries as well as the two signs that happen on the equinox. So depending where you are, obviously southern or northern hemisphere, this is going to be the beginning of autumn in the southern or the beginning of spring in the northern hemisphere. However, what they have in common is that there is an equal amount of light. There is an equal amount of dark and light during the day. And that sense of equality really resonates with this full moon here and the search for equality, the search for balance. So insights that we might have during this full moon could be connected with that, with any disharmony that we might be experiencing in our lives. And that's going to be really bright up in the sky, showing us something about that situation. So the search for balance, remember the scales as the symbol for Libra in general. But there is more, right? I mean, one of the things that happened when I was preparing for you was that I checked the previous degree on the Sabian Symbol. And you know what? I really want to share that with you here as well, because I thought that wasn't just coincidence or mistake. I think that was a synchronicity. So the previous degree, the 11th degree Libra, was about miners that are emerging from a deep coal mine. Now, that's not the Sabian Symbol for this degree, but I still think that's relevant. And that's relevant because Pluto is featuring a little bit under the spotlight here during, this full moon. Now, I'll explain for you why, but with that previous Sabian Symbol degree, there is something about emerging emerging from a deeper process, emerging from the unconscious. So something that could be emerging from the unconscious. Now let me share with you the current Sabian symbol, so the actual Sabian symbol for this full moon. And that is children blowing soap bubbles. Children blowing soap bubbles. Now, very different imagery. The current Sabian symbol is talking about imagination, right? There's a real connection with imagination, with lightness, with freedom, with a sense of play as well. But there is a reason why I shared with you the previous Sabian symbol. And that's because I feel that the bubbles and the sense of freedom and the sense of play and imagination is really going to be possible if we have been doing our homework. If we were there in that coal mine, deeper, doing the deep work and finding those jewels down there. So there is something about this unconscious process that has been happening up to the point of this full moon, that we can harvest the fruits as inspirational, getting in touch with the inner child and the freedom and imagination here, only if we've done that work. And why did I decide to share that coal mine and the previous Sabian symbol is because during this full moon, the planet that rules this full moon, so the planet that rules Libra, Venus, is coming to form a square to Pluto. So we've got Venus at 259, so pretty much at 3 degrees Taurus, and Pluto is at 5 degrees Aquarius. So there's 2 degrees separation here, but it's an applying square. Venus is really coming to square that Pluto. And I really feel, as much as the full moon Libra and Libra in general is about finding harmony, imagination, creativity, beauty, the eye for beauty, there is something deeper about this full moon. It is not just about the equality and beauty and relationships and harmony, but really detoxing something very, very important that's preventing us from finding that sense of equality. Now, within the chart, we have a very strong emphasis on Aries. Obviously, we have Neptune and Saturn in Aries, and Saturn not too far from the sun. So there is an influence here of Saturn in this full moon as well. And what that tells me is that we're trying to find our way, or a healthier way, to express Aries energy in the world. So when we think about this full moon and the axis between Aries and Libra, we are really thinking about healthy individuality, healthy autonomy, detoxing masculinity. So, and we're not just talking about toxic masculinity around us in society and other people, but within us. Where is that voice within us that's really treating us without empathy, without kindness, right? Where are we expecting too much from our bodies, from other people, from our partners? And that's something that we're being invited here to look into, to work with, right? Now, Neptune and Saturn and Aries will be there for longer. This isn't just about this full moon, but full moons are revelations. They really are a moment of culmination in the cycle. So this is something that we will be looking at more clearly. Something that's happening around this full moon that will trigger a bit of this process, right? So obviously with the full moon in Libra and Venus in square to Pluto, we might as well face some of the darker sides of relationships, right? Some of the challenges that we tend to experience in relationships. So do we tend to lean into a more people-pleasing kind of behavior, the shadows of Libra? Do we tend to be fully self-reliant and not allow other people in? the shadows of Aries, and we're very judgmental towards them, and call that honesty, shadows of Aries. So that's really there for us to look into. And as I said before, the Venus-Pluto square is really whatever it is that we found in that coal mine when we were doing the deep work. And how we're going to bring that up. How are we going to discuss that with our partners? And that could be business partners as well. And any kind of, equal partnership that we're involved in right now. Now there's one more layer here. And that's Jupiter forming a square to this full moon. So Jupiter is at 15 degrees Cancer, in square to the moon, and square to the sun in Aries. So what I feel about this is a sense of amplification, of really turning the feelings really big, making things very visible. And as an apex of a T square, right? Because we have that duality of the opposition of the sun and the moon. As an apex, that Jupiter in Cancer is also giving us a key on how to deal with these situations. And that's compassion. That's intuitively, with feelings, with emotions, sharing those emotions, being vulnerable, seeing the situation through that Jupiter lens, rather than being stuck between the people-pleasing and the selfish behavior, right? There is something of that Jupiter in Cancer that could be really revealing and helpful. And Jupiter always brings things into perspective as a lesson. It brings the bigger perspective, the bigger picture for us to see. So that's something very important here. Now, in terms of the tarot cards as well that are related to this full moon, we obviously have the Justice card, which is the major arcana card connected to Libra, but we also have the Two of Swords. The Two of Swords is the moon in Libra card, and what that tells me is that we need to look within. And again, the intuition that Jupiter in Cancer as the apex of the full moon is reflective of. So don't rush into making decisions. Don't rush into communicating anything that comes up. Take some time to digest, to get clarity, to have a clear mind before you share that with whoever it is. But it's a full moon that it brings with it a promise of a love detox, of healing some of the unconscious love patterns that we have, that we carry with us, and potentially bringing that inner child imaginative energy into our lives as well. So that's it. I hope this has been helpful. I'm wishing you all a wonderful, magical, beautiful full moon. And I will be seeing you all or speaking to you all soon. So take care. Lots of love. Bye-bye.